Hello and welcome to our second podcast, Then and Now, the story of how East Belfast Mission has grown and developed into the services that it delivers here on the Newton Road in 2026. Bearing in mind this is our 40th anniversary when we started in 1986. In our first podcast we sort of delved into the depths and the history of how the mission responded to the social issues on the Newton Road, and then went back into the 200-year history of Methodism in Newton Road, and very much that sense of the gospel was preached and shared, but it was all done with a sense of meeting the particular needs in the community at that time. Today we're going to move on and look at one of the particular successes of East Belfast Mission, and that's our impact on the social issue of homelessness. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Mr. Aidan Byrne. Aidan is head of Hosford Homelessness Services and has been with the mission quite a while, Aidan.
20 years now.
Wow, yeah, 20 years.
20 years. I started as a relief worker, support worker 20 years ago when I first moved to Belfast.
And you're not originally from Belfast. Tell the accent.
Yeah. I'm from Dublin.
Yeah.
So I left Dublin. I lived abroad for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I came back here to start a family.
Yeah.
And initially got a job in Asia's supermarket on the Ormo Road for a few months, and then somebody told me about Hosford, a friend who was working here, and said you might like it. Mm-hmm. I always had a social conscience when I was kind of political as well when I was younger.
Yes.
So it interested me, and I tried it out and loved it.
Yeah.
Fantastic people I was working with, and really loved, I suppose, the feeling of spending your working time. Andrew mentioned this before in another podcast of, getting up and going to work and literally helping people. And being paid for it. And so I'm still here. 20
years later.
Yeah.
And so you were a caseworker or a key worker in the hostel?
Initially, it's a relief worker. So you were filling in for people who were on holidays, and you were just picking up shifts when you could, and you were doing night shifts. And then I got a job as a support worker. And then you had a caseload of people who were living in the hostel, and you were trying to help them to get a house and to deal with any of the issues they were facing, and ultimately to have a better life. So that's how I started.
And it clearly is part of your DNA, this whole concept of social justice and people having the right to have their own home.
Yeah, and I think that comes from my family would have instilled that in me, but also I grew up in an area very similar to this area.
Right.
So I would have had friends, who had a difficult start in life, and I was always aware, even from a very young age, how fundamentally unfair it was, the start they had.
Yes.
And how the cards were kind of stacked against them.
Yes.
And what they had to overcome, even compared to me living in the same area, was huge.
Yeah.
And it wasn't their own fault.
No.
So I always had that awareness from my experience as well, so I could relate to it.
And sometimes there is, maybe not use this phrase, you're unlucky. But it just sometimes can be how the cards fall for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And doing this work for 20 years and meeting hundreds and thousands of people, actually, I believe people have choice in life, but that choice is set in the context of where they were born and how they were brought up, and that greatly limits a person's ability or chance to have that, I suppose, to have a happy life and to avoid a life full of suffering. Obviously, in this work, you believe change is possible. You believe in hope. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. But it's always set within those parameters. We wouldn't have many people coming to the hostel at 18 from different areas of affluent areas of East Belfast, to be kids at 18 going on a gap year to Thailand and coming home and being helped perhaps to buy a house when they're ready, go to university. We're encountering 18-year-olds who are in a very, very, very different situation. And in some ways for me anyway, a lot of them are more impressive because of what they've overcome.
Yes.
And they're still going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of my favourite phrases is, there's lots of rubies in the rubble.
Yeah.
Life can be, dysfunctional. You take a house, the rubble of a house knocked down, you've nowhere to live. But there's still gems of people that blossom through the opportunities that come around for them.
That's right.
So you were a casual worker. What sort of causes were around people being homeless 20 years ago and further back in?
So 20 years ago when I started, it's very difficult to talk about homelessness and people experiencing homelessness without simplifying it. It's very, very complicated. There's, homelessness since then has increased hugely. I mean, there's now 5,000 households, tonight living in temporary accommodation in Northern Ireland. So that's more than double since back then. So the numbers have increased hugely. The issues that are leading to homelessness are quite similar, and they're very varied. So you could have domestic violence, people leaving care, people leaving prison, people coming here from abroad, people who lost their job, lost their private rental accommodation, and within that, people who have mild mental health issues to people who have very serious chronic long-term mental health issues. And it's the same with addictions as well, is sometimes part of it. People who've been homeless since childhood, at a young age, and experienced trauma since childhood. People who are homeless for the very first time, and will perhaps never be homeless again. So it's extremely diverse, and I suppose our job is to deal with the person in front of us, whatever their needs are, and to help them. But just one other thing on that, the big difference now to then is, firstly, the number of people who are becoming homeless, and secondly, the availability of housing, particularly social housing.
Okay.
So when I first started, we had the hostel. It wasn't Skenos, it was a different building, but we had the hostel, roughly similar numbers, and we had 3 or 4 empty rooms that we couldn't fill. There was no need for them.
Wow.
And we were wondering, there was enough housing. So that was clear cut. Housing was the kind of cause of that, the availability of housing.
Was causing the hostel to have empty rooms?
Yeah.
There was enough houses?
There was enough houses.
Yeah.
People maybe needed support still, but that could be done in their own house. They didn't need 24-hour support in a hostel. People at that stage were moving into the hostel. We'd support them. They could get a house in the streets around here for 70 points.
Right.
That's over 150 now, roughly.
Okay.
They could also access a private rental for around £400 per month. That's now close to £1,000 per month, and almost impossible. So the difference in the availability of housing for me would be the number one change, and it's sad to see over those 20 years that as a society we've basically failed to provide enough housing for the people in our communities, and one of the consequences of that then is an increase in homelessness.
So without getting too political, Aidan, in some ways homelessness is a political choice, in that governments haven't been able to sustain the level of social housing that our society has needed. Yeah,
absolutely.
And haven't invested as they should have done.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. For me, now it's more complicated in that there are support needs, and there are within the people, the population who are experiencing homelessness, there's some people who have very serious needs, and just a house with some support isn't enough for them. I'm not saying it's simple, but for the vast majority of people, this will be a housing issue, and with some support. But then even in terms of people who have a more complex situation, maybe chronic mental health and addictions, that's still a political issue, because we've also watched over those 20 years the amount of funding and support for mental health services and addiction services also reduce. So if you pull these resources out of communities, there is a consequence, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. And in all likelihood, that seems likely to continue.
And just to help us understand homelessness in Northern Ireland, of the 5,000 people tonight needing a home,
that's 5,000 households, actually.
Households.
So it includes families.
So
yeah,
it
it's
could
even
be
more.
7,500 to 8,000
Yes,
people.
Yeah, I think it's close to 9,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
There'll be a percentage of them who will be on the streets tonight.
Yeah.
And the housing executive have a responsibility to find everybody a home. Are those people on the street tonight, they're making a choice to be on the street, Aidan, or what? Again, is it complicated? It's not as simple as I'm laying it out.
Yeah, that's so the 5,000 households. They're in temporary accommodation, so they'll be in hostels or other forms of temporary accommodation.
Okay.
And then people who are rough sleeping will be separate.
Okay.
And then there's more. There's on the waiting list for social housing is 49,000 households.
49.
Of those, around 30,000 will have their homeless status given to them by the housing executive. So it's much bigger problem than the 5,000 in the temporary accommodation. And on top of that, there are also hidden homeless. So people who are perhaps sofa surfing, or they could be living in a tent, but they've never approached the housing executive, so they won't be counted.
Ah, right, okay.
So yeah, in terms of rough sleeping, it is very complicated. I mean, I've encountered people who are forced to rough sleep because they couldn't get their homeless status, so there's no legal requirement to place them in temporary accommodation. So maybe they're rough sleeping in that situation.
Okay.
You have some people who feel they can't stay in the hostels. They don't feel safe there, and they choose in that context to stay on the streets rather than stay in a hostel. There are some people that are offered temporary accommodation, but perhaps it's in Derry or something far away from their connections. So it's very, very complicated. And then there are some people, I suppose, who perhaps feel they've been let down for decades by maybe their family, by their community, by the homeless services, and they've come to a point where they're habituated to rough sleeping. But that's not the same as choosing. I haven't met anyone who one day said, I think I'll choose to sleep rough. Okay. This is a process that happens to people over a long term. And even there's a lot of international evidence, and it's accepted, that even in terms of rough sleepers who have maybe complicated issues, definitely, and who would say they'd rather sleep on the streets than move into a hostel, even there's a model called Housing First, which involves providing somebody, not saying we've got you a house and we've got you a place in a hostel, but saying we have a house and we have intensive support, and that's been proven to work. And again, that comes back to resources, and it comes back to politics as well.
As you're talking there, you remind me of a story. I remember a chap turning up here at Skenos, and he had been living with a friend. The friend, he lost his job. His friend said, "I'm sorry, I can't support you anymore. You have to move out." And he turned up here, crying his lamps out. We got him some tea. We settled him down. I said I would take him down to the housing executive's offices in Lynn Hall Street.
Yeah.
And on the way down, I have this little speech. Look, no matter where they offer you tonight, whether it be Enniskillen, Londonderry, Derry, wherever it may be, take it, phone us, and we'll sort you out. And so I give him this whole speech on the way down, and I came back later on. Where was he housed? Hosford. Into the hostel.
That worked out.
It worked out very well. And he benefited from the employability and the wraparound. And, and he was a feature for a while. I think he's established now and back into life and back into circulation again. But I remember giving him that speech. No matter where you go, where they offer you tonight, you take it and then keep in touch with us. And then he was
lucky one.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Aidan, as you see the development. Sorry, we talk about Hosford.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Hosford, he was a member of the East Belfast Mission congregation who had a heart for the downtrodden and for those who were marginalised. And he was very committed to the the homeless services as it was then, just the hostel. And that hostel you came into in starting your career, how many beds were in it?
There were 22.
22.
Yeah,
okay.
I know originally it was Mr. Hosford and the others who were involved were responding directly to the needs. At the time it was men with alcohol issues, and that's how it really started.
Yeah.
And in the early days, I think Hosford was a sort of almost like a rehab element, and specifically focused on those issues. And by the time I started, it was a single hostel for men and women with 22 rooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was the next steps for you then? Obviously, from a casual worker, then
support worker, and then the manager, and then the manager, and then the sort of the head of service.
Super.
Really, and a lot of changes during that time. We moved out of this site and we moved to Botanic area for a couple of years.
Right.
And then we came back into the new hostel premises here, which are superb. I've been in hostels across the country in GB and down south, and I think it's some of the best in terms of the standard. The way there's a move on route. People start in a room with en suite, but then they can move into an apartment, and then ultimately out into the community. But also in terms of the hostel being located in the middle of this community of Skainos, with access to volunteer opportunities at Refresh or Restore, your mental health support services, sports and classes and language classes and so on. That's unique. You don't see that in other hostels, which are often on the fringes of a community, which just kind of further stigmatizes people, but also they don't have access to practical supports.
And we can offer that.
And we can offer that. It's brilliant.
So someone ends up in our hostel for whatever reasons. Talk us through the journey that Hosford, through the hostel and other developments that have happened recently, very exciting ones. What can we offer within EBM and Hosford to help people? I often pat my pocket because my keys are in it. So I just think having a key is such a symbolic thing of what we're trying to achieve. So, talk us through the process. Or what we offer.
So if somebody was to move in with us today, the first thing we're offering people often is shelter. That's the number one priority for them, is a bed and a room. But then within that, we've tried to make that accommodation as high quality and comfortable and as close to a home as possible. And obviously it's a communal living situation, and we need to have certain rules around health and safety and risk and so on, but to really try and minimize them, to give people as much independence and control over their life as possible. Home is such a fundamental part of our identity. It's absolutely basic. It's essential for a feeling of security, for safety, control, planning for the future. And, we try to get as close to that as possible within the context of a hostel.
It's men and women now?
Men and women, men and women. And then the second key aspect of the hostel is the support worker. So there's 24/7 support. But each person who moves in will have a support worker who'll be dedicated to them, and will develop a trusting relationship with them, hopefully, and sit with them and try and work out the issues that led to them becoming homeless, and work out with them what they would like to do next. And they would obviously like to have their own home, but any other issues or things they would like to sort in their life. And then help them to achieve that. So it's really led by the person, it's people, the only people who can change their lives are the people themselves. And we just want to try and facilitate that with the quality of the building. And that support worker role that's absolutely crucial. When I meet people in town or whatever who stayed in Hosford 10 years ago, they will always mention the staff, or frequently they'll mention the staff. And they'll mention things like a kind word or a cup of tea or a smile. So that human kindness, caring, as well as all the skilled aspect of the work, the housing points, the benefits, the linking in with services, I think that's really central to it. I think it gives people maybe who are at a real low point a feeling that there are people who care about them. The world isn't hostile.
Yes.
And that there is hope. Then beyond that, I mean, you know...
And how long can they stay in the hostel for, Aidan? Is there an average stay, or...?
That's an interesting one. I mean, when I first started working people were staying for about 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And the very top was about 2 years.
Yeah.
And now we have had people stay 4 years.
Wow.
And that's lack of housing. That's almost exclusively back to the lack of housing.
So there's nowhere for them to progress on to?
We don't have enough options for them to move on. Now, there are some people who you know, they need more than a house. They need something different.
Yes,
they are a minority, and there's a lack of services for those guys as well. But yeah, principal issue is a lack of housing. The support workers will work with somebody, get them ready for the house, link them in with community groups. It could be our health and well-being, or our gardening, or a women's group. They could be volunteering in the cafe. They could be going to a church, a football team. They could be working.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in the hostel at the minute who are working, and then so you setting up those things for them, and then ideally they move upstairs into an apartment where they have an apartment with a bedroom and their own kitchen. And then the last step would be out into the community,
right?
And that's where we hit the barrier a lot of times.
Housing.
Yeah, in saying that, things have got better last year which we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but we've set up our own housing project.
Yeah, let me just see if I can give a little introduction into that, because I think that was a key change for the development of Hosford.
Yeah,
and that was, we were successful under your leadership to secure some dormant account funding, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And that helped organisations build capacity into their particular project, in this case Hosford.
Yeah.
And that allowed us to employ Tom.
Yes.
And Tom was able to go in, dream dreams, and see a model of housing change from Scandinavia, was it? That could sort of community-led housing.
Yeah.
And putting people back into communities as well as giving them a home.
Yeah.
And that was about 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, I think we started, I mean, it was developed, it was myself and Tom and Andrea.
Yeah.
And we put our...
Who's Andrea?
Andrea's the hostel manager.
Thank you.
Yeah, and who's worked in Hosford nearly the same amount of time as me. And so the three of us, I suppose, you know, the attitude that started Hosford was, here's a need, people are suffering. Can we solve it?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of approach we've had over the past 2 decades. You know, well, going back to the start of Hosford.
Yes.
And initially, sorry to go on a tangent, but we'll come back to the housing. But initially, our first kind of new projects were the community groups. So we had the hostel, 22 residents. But we saw a lot of people. We were offering them support, and we were offering signposts and other services, employability, volunteer, and so on. They weren't taking that up. And we got our heads together, and the wonderful woman at the time, Arlene McGaw, and Mary, who still works with us, they set up a community garden, and kind of cooking groups, and you know, all of this kind of thing. Myself and Justin set up street soccer that used football, targeting young men at the time to get them involved in football. That's now a charity in its own.
Very successful.
Its own right, and takes teams to the Homeless World Cup every year and so on. More recently, we have the women's group for refugees and asylum seekers. Set up, and there's been others over the time. Basically, what I'm trying to get across is you're saying, what do people need? And is there someone on our team who can do something about it?
Yes.
And can we get a bit of money? Because you need some money to make it happen.
You always do, don't you?
Can we get a little bit of money and make it happen? So we did those. And those groups, I mean, they're then building community. They're building friendships.
Yes.
They're giving people a spark and a motivation. You know, there's people who've met friends in those groups and gone on their first foreign holiday together. You know, they've got support outside of the service. It's support that can go on. There's no time frame. It can go on for for forever,
friendships.
Friendships and so on. And it's given people kind of, someone was in the hostel, isolated maybe, and had no structure, just nothing to look forward to on a weekly basis. And it's dealing with all those things. And then the next thing we set up was the Tenancy Support Service.
Yes.
So Caroline Lewis, who's a tenancy support worker still, was there at the time and reminded me recently. I'd kind of forgotten. We went around asking other services how they do it and learning how that would work, and we got the funding. And now we have a team of 5 people there, supporting 200 people a year, helping them who have a house, living in East Belfast, but they are struggling, and these struggles could lead to them losing the house and becoming homeless. And around 95% of the people that they support keep those homes. So it's really, really effective.
I can think of one story that has touched my heart. There was a gentleman from Hungary who came to church. His English was atrocious. He's an older man. His quality of English was very poor, and he was living in it was a struggle of a house. It was hard to call it a house. The landlord wanted to do it up. So Alison from the tenancy support team came alongside him, and he's now in a very beautiful apartment, single bed apartment. He has his own space to cook in. He was quite amazed at the size of the fridge he got, because he was used to a small fridge. So, and I've just met him downstairs literally 5 minutes ago. Well, no, 20 minutes ago, and he's sparkling.
Fantastic.
And again, just someone coming alongside him, knowing where the connections were, and joining up the dots for him, which he couldn't do because he doesn't have the English to do it. And now he's thriving. It's just a lovely illustration of what you guys do. So the tenancy support sits alongside the hostel. Hosford Community Homes then was beginning to develop because the blockage was there was nowhere for these people who were ready for community or ready for life again to move on to. So then Hosford Community Homes, you began to create a program with Tom. Tell us a little bit more about that, Aidan.
So just one last additional project is Jenny's mental health support worker project, which is filling a gap in for people who have mental health needs that haven't been met by mainstream services. And we've been running that the last few years, and it's something we'd like to expand. But we saw the need for housing with people in the hostel. They couldn't get out of it. The number of resettlements in a year was gradually reducing. And basically the 3 of us got our heads together, me, Andrea and Tom. We said we'd like to do something about this. And as you say, we got the dormant funds, and that got Tom set up to kind of drive it forward, and that led to us getting being able to redevelop 240 Newparts Roads into 6 apartments, and also Commonweal funding to purchase with social investors 5 houses in East Belfast, and setting up a lease-to-lease relationship with Skenos for some more options as well. So we've almost 20 homes now in the community for people. And they're about creating homes, really creating somewhere secure, affordable, safe, and
high
quality, and where people have control as well, and trying to offer tenancies as long term as possible within our contexts. And then that was brilliant. And then we also simultaneously went for a loan from the Department for Communities. It's called Financial Transaction Capital, and we've been successful in that, and we expect the money in from that today, or literally, or tomorrow. It's all done after about 5 years of work, Tom was reminding me. And that will allow us to buy 18 homes over the next 2 to 3 years. So it's really, we've had a lot of good fortune.
Absolutely.
Great team.
And well, good fortune comes to those who work hard, and you guys have really committed to this and put many long hours and expertise, and you've listened to lots of people, and you've had it academically analysed as well, haven't you, to say this is a programme that we think could be reeled out to help the 40,000 homes that are needed in Northern Ireland.
Yes,
isn't that right?
We had it evaluated by some of that work by Queen's University. Yeah. And it's when you talk about the numbers, the numbers of people on that waiting list and the numbers in temporary accommodation, this is obviously very small.
Yes,
in comparison. And I suppose what we would always say is, on a society-wide level, the solution to homelessness needs to involve public housing, social housing on a big scale.
Yes.
But in saying that, this project is huge for us, for the 26 people who are living in our hostel.
Yes.
So last year, we were able to offer an apartment to 6 people who were otherwise in limbo, who did not have any hope ever of getting access to housing of any form. The year before, there was 5 people going into the commonweal houses the year or so before.
And so if they had gone to the sort of private sector and private landlords, what risks could they have potentially been at? I'm not saying all landlords are poor landlords, but there are some out there. What would, if we sent someone onto a house that the private landlord was renting to them for that £1,000 now a month? What were some of the risks that us being I regard as an ethical landlord? What's the difference that we bring as against the public sector, somebody renting from a landlord? What's some of the benefits that we bring?
I suppose the number one is accessibility. People need a guarantor to access most private rentals, and most of our service users wouldn't have access to a homeowner. They wouldn't know a homeowner who could act as a guarantor. So that's firstly. The affordability. I mean, it's completely unaffordable. For most people at £1,000 or £900 or £850 or whatever. So they can't get in. But even if they do get a tenancy, there is basically effectively almost no security of tenure. They cannot be guaranteed to keep that house. They have a year tenancy agreement, but even within that, they could lose the house. So that's the key. Those are the key difference. Also, most private rentals, the landlord refuses permission to have a pet, to hang pictures on the wall, to change the furniture. So these are
quite restrictive.
Very restrictive. I mean, there's very, very few people who want to live in the private rental sector long term. Nobody does. And there are good reasons for that. And people want to be a homeowner.
Indeed.
For those reasons, or they want to get into social housing. And I suppose I would say it has a role to play in housing, but the role has become too big now as social housing has reduced. And private rental has increased. You have an increasing number of people who are in the private rental sector. They want out. They're not happy for those reasons. And they can't get out. And I suppose with our community housing, what we're trying to do is deal with those issues of the private rental sector and have housing closer to social housing. With the FTC houses in particular, we will be free to have much longer.
Very good.
To give people genuine security of tenure.
Isn't that lovely? That's great.
And tenants will have the ability to furnish the house and to change it as much as possible.
And that's stretched us as an organisation, hasn't it? I know from the board point of view, we've all had to try and work hard to make this happen. But the goal was so important that we were very willing and able to stretch the organisation, which I think is important to acknowledge, as well as the hard work, and that we created structures that protects the tenants, protects East Belfast Mission, protects Hosford Community Homes in a way that is beneficial to everybody.
That's right.
Without giving anybody's name away, Aidan, have you any stories of someone who's come through hostels who's maybe in one of the homes in East Belfast?
I mean, there are so many stories. But specifically, I suppose, the one that's just close to my heart at the moment, is 2 of the houses really have allowed us to move 2 guys on who were in the hostel.
Right.
Who'd had major difficulties in their life going back a long period of time. And they were able to, they kind of turned their lives around, and they had kids, and they were taking on a parenting role.
Yes.
But because they're in the hostel, their ability to have access and to their kids was really, really limited.
Yeah.
And then they were excluded from housing, but kind of doubly excluded because it's very hard to get social housing with an extra room for their child.
Yes.
And because they don't have full, parental responsibility.
Yes,
shared.
for access. Yeah.
So it's terrible to see the situation those guys were in, and we were able to offer them these houses, and then they were able to reestablish better contacts. They had contacts, but to build on the contact they had with their kids, to get the room done up and painted for one guy's daughter.
Lovely.
And so that kind of thing. So just a huge impact that the housing's going to have, not just on those two men, but also on their kids at this key developmental age.
And that's beautiful, and that sort of that parental thing is lovely, and the child will have such a better experience of their dad, but also keeps them out of mental health issues. It keeps them better healthy wise, more fulfilled. So the ramifications are great, aren't they?
Yeah, one of the guys is in full-time work now as well.
So he wasn't when he came into the hostel?
He wasn't, no, and he wasn't. And he didn't, during his time in the hostel, really moving out into the house facilitated that. He may have started just before he's left, actually. But but I mean, and going, like, I came back from holidays in the summer, and I went into the cafe the first day.
Yes.
To get a coffee. And first 5 people I met had lived in the hostel and were now working and volunteering there. Wow. And they're talking about their own holidays.
Wow.
They're in their own house.
Incredible.
And, I've met them for the first time at a real low point.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. We've a guy on our staff team at the moment who's 4 years homeless now, a homeowner, and working with ourselves and another charity, and we're constantly hearing these stories of people who have come to a better place. But at the same time, there's also a lot of people's lives that don't get transformed in this ways, who sadly their life goes in a different way as well. And that's part of it. That's part of the work. I mean, people are people are dealing with problems going back to childhood, often very complex. And all we can do is do our best to facilitate change where possible.
Yes.
But there are massive obstacles people are facing in themselves and their own lives, and then in the lack of housing, the lack of mental health support as well. Yes. So both elements are really are part of the work.
You can't have 100% success rates because it's so complicated.
No, and
the presentations are so different and varied.
Yeah,
they may have similar themes. The individual capacity to do the change isn't always what you would love it to be.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Couple more things. Immigration has become a stronger issue within Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
We have an immigrants group. We want to support them. We as a church are a church of sanctuary, which means we're a place who says you're all welcome, and that manifests itself then in the Hosford. Yeah. That's a growing feature. Yes,
over the last 6 or 7 years or so. We would have seen an increase in the number of people, particularly refugees, who, when they come to the UK, initially will be in home office accommodation, until their application for refugee is assessed. When it's assessed, if it's positive and they have a right to stay, they become a refugee then. They're asylum seeker initially.
Right.
And then they become a refugee.
Okay.
And they will also be given a 28-day notice to quit to leave the home office accommodation. And that's when they enter the homeless system.
Yes.
Normally.
Right.
They won't be able to access social housing. They won't have the points to access social housing.
Yeah.
So it will be a question then of potentially a hostel or they can't. Also, when they're an asylum seeker, they can't work. So there's an issue then around saving money to move at that key point into a private rental. So we'd be supporting people who are in that situation. That was all new to us.
Yes.
But it's it's work we've taken on, like you said. I mean, that's our ethos, is to help people in our society who are in need, and to do our best for them.
And did we recently get a grant from a Muslim charity?
We did, yes, the Islamic Relief Fund. So we got a grant for them that will help with things like our women's group.
Super.
Help with accessing private rental accommodation, for example, maybe pay a deposit or rent in advance for someone.
Super.
And we have those resources for local and refugees. So, that's something we've been able to do the last 4 or 5 years, is to have a pot of money. So if somebody does find a private rental, or we find it for them, we can get a rent and deposit up front to help them access it.
Aidan, it's clear to me, and I'm sure to anybody listening or watching these podcasts, your heart bleeds for those who are homeless, and your commitment to them, and your knowledge of the situation and this problem within Northern Ireland is immense. I take it you're very fulfilled in what you do, and the desire to make change still drives you each day.
Yeah, I am absolutely. I love it. I mean, back to that thing of you're going into work and you're helping people, and what myself and the team of support workers and the managers and stuff, what we do can have an impact. If we see people need furniture, they need blinds put up in a house, they've got social housing that's unfurnished, and we go out and we get the money to sort that, we can help them directly, and that can have a huge impact on their life. Frequently people have no one else to turn to for this kind of help. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it, but at the same time, I'd have to say it saddens me to see the length of time people are living in homelessness, to see the reduction of the social housing, and to see the reduction of services and support for people who are marginalised over 20 years. So it's kind of mixed. And and it's a good period for Hosford. We're growing, we're expanding. We have a great team of people.
Indeed.
Really wonderful. And we're helping more people. And we're helping people, giving better quality help. But meanwhile, on a wider level in society in Northern Ireland, and it's not just here, it's the same down south, it's the same in GP.
Indeed.
As a society, we are increasingly not looking after people who are marginalised and suffer in our communities.
I think that's a broader issue, and beyond homelessness, those who are on the margins seem to be a group of people that society wants to invest least amount in, seems to me. Aidan, I'm almost embarrassed to ask this question just in terms of the success of Hosford, but given what you've just said, what's next?
What's next? Get
this established.
No pressure. Just give us a moment.
Yes, you do deserve at least 2 days to breathe. You do. Fair enough.
No, I mean, what's next? I mean, so there's a few things. I mean, the housing is one of those. Well, first of all, I should say, like, the core of our work is the hostel and the homeless prevention and the groups. That's the absolute core of it. That's where our support workers are. It's that relationship of helping people directly. And we want to make those, as a team of people, we want to keep improving them. And it's hard, it's a difficult environment in terms of funding and all the different problems people are facing. And so we want to make those as good as they possibly can be for the people we help. And things are always changing. We have 2 staff members at the moment, Brian and Louise, in the hostel, who are doing a few months' work looking at getting better, helping domestic people who've experienced domestic violence.
Okay.
That's Louise, and Brian is looking at helping people access a private rental.
Right.
build up our ability to do that. So things like that, make sure the building is good, have a team who are looked after, seeing problems people face, looking for solutions for those problems. And it's the same with the homeless prevention work and the tenancy support team and the mental health and the community groups, is listening to the service users, and if they have problems, figuring out a way to help them, and then supporting each other as a team as well. The work is difficult.
It must be stressful at times for the team.
Yeah, absolutely, particularly for people doing that face-to-face work as well. So and then so that's part of it. We want to grow our ability to help people wherever that leads us, wherever the needs are, and then for sure we're going to put a lot of energy and resources into housing. Because it's such a big issue for people. So we'll have our hands full, particularly Tom, looking for those 9 houses this year.
Yes.
And 9 the subsequent year.
Yes.
And then making that work, making sure, because we don't just want the houses, as we want their homes for people, and maybe there'll be some support needed.
Yes.
And we want to make sure people are linked in with the community if that's right for them, and so on. And then making it work and proving it works, and then perhaps going back for additional loan funds, and looking at doing that again. And the other thing we're interested around that whole housing side of it is helping other organisations to replicate what we've done. There's a real opportunity with that loan. We've got it, Simon Community have got it. And there is a possibility for other organisations in homelessness to access it. And we feel like we've learned a lot. We've been on a real journey.
What I love about you guys is that willingness to share, because you see a model that works and it can make a major impact upon the homelessness in Northern Ireland. Aidan, thanks very much indeed for your time. You're clearly a passionate, insightful man, and we are very blessed that over these 20 years you have been a significant player in the development of East Belfast Mission. So Aidan, just personally say thank you to you for all you've given. I know you're a humble guy and you'll point to your team as soon as I say that, but every organisation needs a significant lead, and you have been a magnificent leader. And so thank you, and I hope, and I'm sure you have found what Aidan has had to share interesting around the homelessness in Northern Ireland, and what we need to do to try and reduce those levels, those horrendous levels. That's the end of this particular podcast. We'll be back again soon with another element and story of how East Belfast Mission has made a significant difference then and now. Thank you.